I'm here at PWR's headquarters in the Gold Coast with the CEO and founder, Kees Weel. Kees, thank you so much for your time today. So we wanted to talk to you today, Kees, because when we came up to meet you a few years ago and you were kind enough to give us a site tour, we noticed it's a pretty unique culture here. And the first thing that you showed us was your diner, where you serve everyone a free lunch and breakfast every day. And I've done a lot of site tours before and they don't usually start that way. And I think what you've created here is, managing to maintain that small family business feel while you've become a much larger business. So I'm interested in how you've done that and, and taking it back, I guess, to the roots of the business, which is the fantastic position you have in motorsports. I've got to ask a question about Formula One up front. You probably, Formula One purists probably hate people like me that have been introduced to the sport through Drive to Survive on Netflix.
Right.
But I was very surprised to find out that this Australian business is supplying every single one of these teams with their cooling systems. So can you tell us a little bit how you've gotten to that dominant position in that sport?
Yeah, well, it probably started, it did start in 2009, that area, for the F1 deal. But we went to Cologne in Germany to a motorsports show over there, not thinking that we'd be getting a F1 customer. We just wanted to break into Europe and to see what business was over there. And, we already had an office there. And so we went over there and we were at a motorsports show and we were lucky enough to meet a guy by the name of Pat Simmons. And he's the chief engineer at the time, technical director for Renault F1. And anyway, he said, "Oh, could you build an F1 car?" And you talk to people and they say, "It's going to take you 10 years to get an F1." People have tried so hard. And I said, "Oh, well, maybe." And I had a young engineer with me, Matthew Bryson, who's my senior engineer now. He said, "Oh, we could do that." And I'm rolling my eyes and thinking, "Holy hell, how are we going to do this?" So that was the start. That was the start. Anyway, we came back and we only had 35 people. So Matthew and I made the core ourselves at night time, because we were too busy during the day. And so we were back every night making this blessed F1 core. And some nights we were thinking, "Holy hell, we just not going to be able to do it." Anyway, long story short, we done it and shot it over there and they were pretty happy. But I think the surprising part was that, it was weeks later, not very many weeks later, that Red Bull rang us and they said, "Oh, we heard you done this nice core," and I'm laughing, I said, "That's BS. That's not correct." And anyway, they said, "Oh, we'd like you to build something for us." I said, "Oh, mate, we can't. We just can't do that. We just done a handshake deal with a guy from Renault and we're going to supply him. He's our first customer. We're not just going to drop him." And they said, "Well, surely you can help us. We've signed this kid. He's going to be the bomb." And I said, "Oh, I've heard this story many times about people employing these great drivers." And then I said to him, I said, "Oh, who's the kid? Who's the wonder boy?" And they said, "Oh, Sebastian Vettel." Anyway, long story short, surprise, surprise, we supplied them and, Vettel wins 4 championships, 10, 11, 12 and 13. And now we're fortunate enough that we supply every team. And it's not only that in motorsport, but we nearly supply every team across the world in every motorsport category there is. So it's been a great push. And I think the technology, I treat it as a technology driver. The technology you get out of F1 makes us better and makes us stronger, and we build better parts, etc., etc. So, and that's been the growth. Certainly the background growth of PWR, and it's allowed us to do other things, and that technology's been able to trickle down into other motorsports category at a wider base. So I think it's a win-win for everybody.
So you've been in motorsports for a long time, and it's really is the roots of the business, and it's your passion as well. Your son, who you founded the business with, he was a successful race car driver himself. If I'm sitting there with my Excel spreadsheet and I'm thinking, oh, Kees is on a pretty good wicket and I wanted to start up a competitor to you, I won't take offense that you're laughing immediately. How much of a barrier to entry do you think it is to have that deep roots within, motorsports being part of your DNA?
I think the big thing there is stability with your staff. And when you look at our staff and what have you, you look at our supervisors, for instance. Well, every supervisor here has grown up from being an apprentice. So most supervisors have been here for 20 years now. And we have a lot of staff around that 20 to 25 years that have been working with me all that time. And I think it's trust and DNA and culture and passion and all those things wrapped up. It certainly helps you, about competitors and competition and what have you. And I think the big thing is that we are very reactive in our service, and I think when you're giving good service and good product, it's very, very hard to beat that. And to say that we haven't got any competition around the world, I'd be lying. Does it keep me awake at night? Certainly not. We're certainly, I won't say riding on a wave, but we've been very successful in building a boundary fence around our business. And when you haven't got any people leaving, none of your IP is leaving, and our IP is special to us.
Well, you've said many times that you're envisaging the emerging technologies part of the business will dwarf motorsports in a few years' time.
Got a good memory.
If we could talk about that division for a second. Firstly, actually, we should probably clarify, when I think about electric vehicles, exactly what that means for your business, because I know that the cooling technology would look quite different to what it does for an old economy engine. Yeah.
Well, like electrification, and look, I'll be honest, I still remember a board meeting a few years ago, and Teresa, our chairman, said, "Oh, I can't wait for the day that we get dropped off in a driverless electric vehicle and we can have a sip of wine on the way home after our board meeting back to Brisbane." I just laughed. And I said, "That's never going to happen, Teresa, never." But I'll tell you what, I've changed my tune. I tell you what, it's close. There is so much technology going on in electrification, not only in vehicles, but, aerospace and electric lift vehicles, like as in electric helicopters and things like that, people mover stuff. It's coming, and it's coming pretty fast. We are very involved, very, very involved in electrification, and it's starting to be a big part of our business. And what you said earlier about what I said several years ago, that our emerging tech side will dwarf our motorsport. But on the other hand, when you look at electrification and also aerospace and defence side of it, and a lot of that is in our emerging tech side. All those products are made through our emerging tech side of the business. So, to dwarf motorsport, it's a big statement. I certainly understand that. But it will be bigger than motorsport in 2 to 3 years' time.
Aerospace, defence, electric vehicles, I'd look at them and say they're pretty discrete, large industries. What's the common thread that creates the opportunity for you guys?
I think the common thread is technology. Absolutely, we're a technology company. Or a solutions provider. People come to us because they have a problem, or they have an area that they can't fix of cooling and what have you. And I think the good part about motorsport is that and I call it migration, and at the end of every year, a lot of the engineers, not everybody, but they're either on a 2-year or 1 year consignment type deal, and or a contract, and then they'll move somewhere else, and they'll move from motorsport into aerospace into electric vehicles or defence and what have you. So you get that migration of a lot of great engineers around the world, and every January, February, new things pop up all over the world because there's engineers that we've been dealing with. They move to another company, and I say, well, PWR could fix this. They have the technology to fix this. We should be reaching out to them. So that in itself, I think, is a huge thing for us. But I think the other thing is that a lot of the equipment we have here is very well suited, not only motorsport, but it's very well suited for aerospace and defence and electric vehicles and that technology. So, as I said, that's about that fence around us. That's not only people, but it's also equipment and know-how.
No, it's definitely a very exciting division. I find actually all of your business exciting, even though you're talking down in motorsports compared to the growth that you see in other parts of the business. I think it's all pretty exciting. So the final question from me, besides the weather, the advantages and I guess disadvantages of being located here on the Gold Coast. I think you mentioned before a lot of your customers are based in Europe.
I think there's advantages everywhere on all sides. I think if we were in Europe, if we were in Europe, I think we would have trouble holding the IP that we do, and mainly because I feel we'd have people coming and going for opportunity and what have you. Being here in Australia, we feel it's special over here, and we have imported people from overseas and brought in different talent for different areas of Europe and what have you to help us. But the good thing about it is they come to Australia and they want to be here and they want to stay.
No one ever wants to leave.
No one ever wants to leave. And the thing is, I think if you were in Europe, you would have a lot of people transiting, coming in and out of the business, and I think that's where you would lose your IP, and I think that's special for us. So that's one advantage. Look, you mentioned earlier, we have a diner here, and we look after our staff very well and what have you, and which is fantastic. And as I said earlier, we started with 35 people here, and now we're 340-ish thereabouts. Expansion is part of a growing company and what have you. But we have a lot on our plate, particularly expansion over from now to 2025. We are looking at different areas of expansion for the buildings and space and people and what have you. So 2025 will be a special year for us with a new complex. We're building a new complex. We'll do that because the opportunities are there and the growth is there.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Kees. It sounds like you've got a lot on your plate, so I'll let you get back to it. But you really have created, you've managed to preserve a small family kind of culture in a business that just keeps growing and growing. So thank you.
No worries.
Thank you for your time.
No worries. Thank you.